My name is Monisha Ramgahan, and I was born in Toronto, Ontario, October 8th, 1972. Well, I was born in Women's College Hospital, and like my parents said, we moved in 1973. So the first year living in Toronto, I have no recollection. My earliest memories were of Brampton, and that's what I know.
So what was it like for you, early childhood in Brampton?
I think it was very safe. I remember living in a townhouse complex, and at the time you'd be able to play outdoors and you'd be able to run around freely, and there was really no restrictions. And I can say that probably until I went to high school, where it was normal to keep our doors unlocked and people would walk in and out freely. So I think there was a safety living in Brampton. Now it's changed just due to our society and things that are happening now, but back then that's what I remember. So those are one of the things that I like about Brampton, because I still do feel that there is a safety in Brampton. Growing up in Brampton, I don't have any bad memories of growing up in Brampton. I can't say anything negative about growing up in Brampton. I went to Montessori school when I was young and switched over to the public school system. One thing that I do know from living in Brampton, going to school in Brampton, there were not very many East Indians going to school with me. When I went to high school, I would say there was about, at the most, 15. I would say if I was going to put it to a percentage, I'd put it to a 10 to 15 percentage. Now, when I see the high schools in Brampton, it's anywhere up to 80% of the population of kids that are from East Indian or some other descent. And that is very shocking to me. It would have been nice when I was in high school. I didn't really hang around a lot of the East Indian kids, and I tended to hang around more with everybody. I didn't have a certain clique that I hung out with, which was nice because it enabled me to have friends with a lot of different types of ethnic people, as well as my Canadian friends. Most of my best friends when I was younger were from Canadian families, which was nice because it got me to experience their foods and, their type of parenting, what they were allowed to do, what they weren't allowed to do, because my parents are very traditional, so there were certain things that they didn't want me to do. I really wasn't allowed to go sleep over at people's homes and things like that, where my other friends could. But that was okay, because it was okay for me to have my friends sleep over. So my childhood was great because my parents weren't very demanding. They were very open to everything around us. So just the regular rules, like you can't go to, shopping mall and just hang around, things like that I couldn't do. But everything else they were very open to, which made my childhood very easy and not as, I guess, abrasive as some other East Indian friends that I knew of and whose parents were not so open to the Canadian society. So I was lucky that way. I'm not sure if it was a matter of expressing it. I think it was a matter of just maintaining it. I would express it by, when I would go to religious functions, I'd wear my dress. Like my mom said, when we have certain functions, or if I just want to get dressed up, but there would have to be a reason for it, because I can't just get dressed up and go to the mall. You know what I mean? There was always have to be a reason for it. Maintaining it though, like I crave my mom's food. So every Sunday, my husband and I go to my mom's house just to eat it. So, and I know the Bengali language, I can read it and I can write it. So I can still communicate with my uncles and aunts in our language. So it's important for me, and I think it's important for my mom and dad, that I maintain what I've learned from them. So I think for me it's more of a matter of maintenance than a matter of expression.
Many second generation people have agreed that the older that they become, the more valuable that maintenance is. Is do you find that as well?
I think it is, because I do think that when it's gone, it's gone. If I don't know my language, there's nothing for me to teach my children if I don't know it. So I do know it, and then it just becomes my choice whether I want to continue that to my children. It is important because it is a part of my heritage and is a part of my culture. Though I live in Canada, it's still important to maintain it, and it just makes you a part of who you are.
So as a second generation Canadian, what are some of the major values that you have grown up with?
Some of the values, I love Indian food. I still eat Indian food. I go to our major religious festivals every year, usually once a year. I go to the main ones. I have to say that I don't maintain going to the ones every week, but I do once in a while go to the temples. Usually it's when I feel drawn to it, not because someone's told me to do it. And my parents quite understand that, and they're very much the same way. They're not a very religious family, but they do maintain what they need to maintain, and I do the same as well. When I got married, I didn't have an arranged marriage. I was dating my husband for about 8 years prior to us getting married, and it was okay with my parents. But I still though wanted to have an Indian wedding, which is something that I wanted, and I know it's something that my parents would want as well. But I also know in the back of my mind that if I didn't want to, that would have been okay with them as well. But I became to realize that the marriage, the day of the marriage, is really not about my husband and me. It's really for my family. It's for my family from India. It's my parents. It's a whole package. So it was a really wonderful day, and to be able to learn about an Indian marriage and to be married in the sanctity of that type of marriage was wonderful. Though one thing my husband and I did a week before we got married was to understand exactly what they were saying, because that's one thing we didn't want is, they were speaking a different language, and it's certain religious rites and rituals and things that they were doing that we didn't understand, and we wanted to have an understanding as to what each and every rite meant, so it could just mean more to us. So that's the only thing that we did a little bit different when we got married. I think what would be important for me is to the maintenance of my religion, not necessarily the entire, but just the core foundational part of it. The language, I'd like them to be able to speak Bengali, to write Bengali, to be able to read it to a certain degree just for communication purposes. I don't really cook Indian food like my mom. That would be a little bit of an issue, but that's something that'll just have to come in time. But I think I'd like them, as long as they know the basics and they're aware of the basics, I think that's what would be important to me. It's just to be able to know about their religion. So if somebody asks them, what exactly is Hinduism, at least they'd be able to give a solid answer as to what it is. But as far as pushing them into any type of religious way of life would totally be their choice. I think my favorite place in Brampton would have to be Chinguacousy Park. Brings back a lot of memories from when I was younger. I would go there with my dad and my best friend Megan and go fishing in the creek. I still go to Chinguacousy Park every year for the fireworks, and it's just one of those things where you really feel it unites Brampton. I don't know if it has to do with the fact of where it's located. It's centrally located, and even to this day, when I take my husband to see the fireworks, he is awed by the amount of people that are walking back to their cars after the fireworks. And he says, this all the people in Brampton? I go, I'm sure these people are all the people that came every year or come every year. So Chinguacousy Park brings back a lot of memories because, you know, if you want to just go out somewhere, my husband and I, when we were dating, we'd go there all the time just to walk around, and, you know, there's a lot to do, and you can really feel a sense of family, a sense of community, because there's just so much that happens there. So that would be my favorite place in Brampton.
So one of Brampton's most notable cultural festivals is Carabram. So for someone who has never been there, could you please describe what it's like?
I think Carabram is 3 days of where you can travel around the world. You can go to various different countries, eat their food, see their entertainment, understand their traditions, and it doesn't cost you anything. And it really, I've been going there since 1984, and I still go there every year, and I still go to all the pavilions, even though I've been there over and over again. I just think it's nice to, for a way for people to see how other cultures are without having to leave Canada. And it's a way for people for 3 days to be able to come together and to appreciate exactly what Brampton's about, because there's just so many different types of people from different countries living in Brampton. We don't really get to see what they're all about until we have an event such as this. And it's a way, I think, for the city just to appreciate one another in those 3 days. And for someone who's been going there year after year after year, I still enjoy it. I still look forward to it. I still buy the passports. And it's just a fun way to just travel around the world. I think it's not a matter of whether I would like to see changes. I think change is happening anyways. The demographics of Brampton, just the population itself, has expanded so much from when I was younger. And just looking at how the diversity of the population is growing, I think change is inevitable. I don't think that you can stay stagnant while the diversity of the city is growing. Changes, I think, with Brampton